call the meeting to order for the District of Lunenburg Municipal Council meeting on Tuesday, September the 23rd, here in the Council Chamber. I would begin by acknowledging that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the traditional territory of the Mi'kmaq people, and we are happy to share the land with them. Are there any announcements, acknowledgements, or recognitions from council members? Councillor Smith.
I would like to acknowledge a community drop-in that was held 2 Saturdays ago at the Maple Creek Center in New Germany, marking World Suicide Prevention Day, which is on the September 10th every year. It was organized by a resident of our district, Sarah Burchill, supported by Roots of Hope and sponsored by the Lunenburg County Health Board. The main activity was sewing dolls at a table together, which allowed people to sit quietly, talk about their experiences, and share support and resources. One common sentiment was the need to overcome the stigma of suicide that leads to isolation, especially in our rural communities where it can be more challenging to access services. With more awareness and openness, we can develop practices and responses that reduce the impact of suicide in our communities. That's at the heart of the Roots of Hope community-led prevention model. Sarah Burchill provided me with some extra resources for counselors to learn more, and I've put them near the mailboxes in the lounge. And I just want to acknowledge her work in putting on this event for World Suicide Prevention Day. I think it was a first for my area and possibly for Lunenburg County.
Councillor Oikel.
Thank you. I'd like to recognize our staff, particularly our recreation staff, and all the work that they have done in the 55+ games, which are still going on, and the ending ceremony is tomorrow. They've done a great deal of work. I had the opportunity to volunteer with them, and the participants are just so happy, and they're just so excited to be able to be here in our county and to be able to participate in all the activities that have been organized.
Councillor Burns.
Thank you. I just want to recognize the efforts that have been made of late by our volunteer firefighters, especially those in Oak Hill and from the Northfield departments. There's been, in a time of increased anxiety about wildfires and forest fires, they've responded very timely multiple times to fires that have begun in the district on Nogler Road, and I just want to thank them for what is a huge amount of efforts for volunteers who are showing up to keep the community safe, and to thank the community as it increasingly pulls together to try and solve this issue and put an end to it once and for all.
Anyone else? I would just like to comment and bring to everyone's attention that September 29th to October the 5th is National Truth and Reconciliation Week. It is a time to reflect on the legacy of residential schools and our shared history with First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people across Canada. Next Tuesday, September the 30th, Canada marks Truth and Reconciliation Day, honoring residential school survivors, their families, and communities. This will be the 5th year our province has formally recognized the day following federal legislation passed in 2021. Along with Treaty Day, there are local opportunities for each of us to take part, whether through events, conversations, or personal learning. And last year, I used the day to visit the Fisheries Museum in Lunenburg, as they have an amazing display of the history of our Indigenous Mi'kmaq culture and fishing. And this area was a prime fishing area, as we can all expect, for in the long history of the Indigenous people of Nova Scotia. And it's a really, really well done display and very informative, and it provides lots of background on some of the innovations that have been developed in fishing tradition. This year in Liverpool, there will be a whole series of events held starting next Tuesday at 11 o'clock, music, dancing, and food. So I invite people to go there. Our library also has an extensive reading list of materials if you're interested in reading. And I would recommend 3 books that I have read that I found, I would say, life-changing. The first one was 21 Things You May Not Know About the Indian Act. And I would say if you read nothing else about our Indigenous history, you should read that one, because it is shocking to read that. And as a settler, it makes you very humble about the history and the lack of understanding that we have about the decisions that were made in our past. The other couple of books that I'll mention are Five Little Indians by Michelle Gourd, Unreconciled by Jesse Wente, and those would be 3 that I would highly recommend, and they are all available in the South Shore Library. So just, if nothing else, take a little time on Truth and Reconciliation Day to read a little and come to some better understanding, because I think that's the beginning of true reconciliation in our country, is developing understanding. And I do have a proclamation, which is Right to Know Week. Whereas the municipality of the District of Lunenburg has adopted the principles of openness, transparency, and accountability, and whereas the Municipal Government Act gives citizens a right of access to information in the custody or under the control of the municipality of the District of Lunenburg, and whereas access to information ensures citizens of Nova Scotia have the opportunity for meaningful participation in the democratic process, and whereas a celebration of the right of citizens to access information will facilitate informed public participation in policy formulation, ensure fairness in government decision-making, and permit the airing and reconciliation of divergent views. And whereas Municipality of the District of Lunenburg joins all other Canadian jurisdictions and democracies worldwide in acknowledging International Right to Know Week, therefore be it resolved that the Municipality of the District of Lunenburg hereby proclaims September 22nd to the 28th, 2025, to be Right to Know Week in the Municipality of the District of Lunenburg. Now is a time that we allocate for public input, and we say at each of our meetings how important this is to provide our residents with an opportunity to speak to council about concerns and issues that they may have or points that they want to bring to our attention. So we allocate 15 minutes at the beginning of our meeting for that. We ask that all statements be respectful of other members of the public, staff, and council. We ask that you provide your full name and the community where you reside for the record. If you have a question or concern that you would like to have addressed, then we ask that you leave your email so we can contact you with background information or to collect more information. The chair, that will be me, will respond to questions that can be easily answered. It is at the discretion of the chair to make that determination. If your question or concern cannot be answered by the chair, then it will be handled as followed. We will email you with an answer and contact you if we need additional information. We will require, again, as I said, that you leave your email address so that we can be in touch. We will provide a summary of answers and responses at a future council meeting under business arising from the minutes. This will form part of the public record, and in this way, not only do we provide an answer to the resident that comes forward, but it also becomes part of answers to others who may share a similar question or concern. Statements and questions related to personnel or operations can be emailed or to the Chief Administrative Officer, Tom McEwen, who's sitting on my left. As I said, we allocate 15 minutes for speakers to address council. Is there anyone in the gallery today who would like to speak? I see no one standing, so we appreciate that you're here, and we always welcome public attendance at our meetings and public input. We should move on to Councillor Smith. Could we approve the agenda first? Yeah,
I was going to suggest a change to the agenda.
okay.
I think that some people are in the public gallery for councillor matters, so I wondered if we could take care of that first.
We can do that, sure. So that is down, it is item number 12.2. We will move that up to, let's do it after the approval of the minutes. Okay? Could we have someone approve the agenda as amended? Councillor Moore moved, and a seconder for the motion. Councillor Brooks, all those in favor of the agenda as amended? Motion is carried unanimously. The minutes of special council meeting of September 3rd, 2025 have been circulated. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing no one noting anything, I will approve those as circulated. And the minutes of council meeting from September 9th, 2025 have been circulated. Are there errors or omissions? Seeing none noted, I'll approve those as circulated. Now, Councillor Smith, could we move to your item, which is 12.2?
Thank you. This is a request for a letter of support that came to us from residents of Allenback Point and Sweetland Road, and it followed from a community meeting that I attended in August in the community of Farmville, which is also on the Sweetland Road, and there was also a meeting that the mayor and I met with residents as well. In that August meeting, the MLA for the area, Susan Corkum-Greek, was there to hear the concerns of residents, and I was there as a local councillor to listen in. There were about 50 people present at that meeting. Kind of a fun fact, we broke the church floor and had to move outside. It was quite an interesting community meeting, but it was packed, and at that meeting, the MLA was presented with the petition with 145 signatures. You have the text in your package. I did not include the signatures themselves in the package because our policy requires that we only table petitions with signatures that are addressed to us. A couple of things that were expressed at that community meeting and in a meeting with the mayor and I. The community feels that the department is not meeting their commitment when it comes to maintaining the road. Grading and dust suppression has been woefully inadequate, and this leads to people not being able to walk on the road. There are visibility issues when driving. So if you can imagine during a snowstorm, you can't see. It's the same with the dust some days on that road. And people have to pull over and wait for the dust to settle before they can drive on. Some people can't be in their yards without a mask. And this is people who have a couple of trees, a tree line between the road and their house. It's really a public health issue, as well as the safety driving issue I mentioned. And at the meeting, some also would like to see the speed limit lowered, especially with the increased truck traffic. And some would like to see the road put on a list for hard surface. It is a provincial road. I'll be clear about that. But I do want to support the residents in their concerns. And we have two municipal connections, I think, on that road. Mushamash Beach Park is on that road, and according to residents, that park is getting busier and busier every year, so there's more traffic and more concerns about the road. We also, our bylaws allowed for a development called Sweetland Estates, and there's just lots of construction in that area. So with clearing the land, building roads for the cluster development. There's been a huge amount of traffic with trucks, and that's just going to continue as people start constructing houses and moving in. And, you know, if there's 2 cars for every lot, that's a lot more traffic. So the petition is in your package, and I would just like to ask you to support a motion to support their petition to have, should I read the petition aloud?
I think
Is that
it would,
enough?
I think it would be better if you table the motion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'll table the motion.
Then people can ask questions.
Okay. To Mayor McLean-Weil and members of council, I move that municipal council support the request from the residents for proper maintenance on the Sweetland Road and write to the provincial minister responsible for public works, Fred Tilley, and copy MLA Susan Corkum-Greek, and further request that the gravel portion of the Sweetland Road to Cornwall be placed on the short list for substantial and permanent upgrades. I so move.
Do we have a seconder for the motion? Seconded by Councillor Reinhardt. Is there discussion on the motion? Councillor Hubley, Oikel, and Bell.
So I have a few notes on this. I'm actually shocked to see it on the agenda because I believe provincial roads need to be left at the provincial level. Are you aware of the can of worms that this is going to open? If this passes, I would ask that you hold the petition so we can all submit the hundreds of petitions that will be coming our way. Our councillor is aware that there are roads in Lunenburg County that the fire department could not drive to a medical call this past spring. They had to park and walk to the resident because of road conditions. Our councillor is aware that a tow truck was called to pull a car out of a muddy road this spring, and the operator refused to tow the car through the mud to the resident's home. The resident had to leave the car at the beginning of the mud hole and walk home. Should I mention the lack of bush cutting in the entire municipality, or the lack of grading and dust suppression? That is the entire municipality, not one road. The most complaints I get are road-related. Should I tell the residents of District 4 and the entire Lunenburg County that all you need is a petition? There are many roads in Lunenburg County that need provincial attention. It's not our responsibility at the municipal level to get involved in provincial road maintenance. The province has set up a procedure for us to follow, and in most cases, certainly not all, the procedure works. I will not be supporting this motion.
Councillor Oikel?
I'll just add District 3 to that list that Councillor Hubley just added. And I think that it's great that they sent a petition to their local representative for the province. That's the right procedure to do. And dust is all over our municipality. And when it rains, there's mud everywhere on those roads. I can't support this. I have many residents who have asked me to help them out, and I've sent along their requests. I have encouraged them to contact our local MLA from my area, which is Becky Durhan. And yeah, I can't support this. You know, I feel bad for everyone on our roads. In all of Nova Scotia, we have a problem. The province needs to relook at how they designate these roads and the money that they're putting into them. And yeah, the province does need to do something, but I don't think we need to be getting into it.
Councillor Bell?
Thank you. I have to look at this and look at some history and look at councillor responsibilities as opposed to MLA responsibilities, and who is responsible and who should be hearing the concern. I do not support this municipal unit suggesting to the provincial government how they choose their priorities and upgrades. They have engineers the same as we do. We take the advice of our engineers for municipal roads, and I'm sure that they have qualified engineers to take recommendations from their engineers. I will support the petition in support of upgrades to the Sweetland Road, but fall short of telling Nova Scotia Public Works to change their chosen priorities. Therefore, I will not vote in favor of the motion as it was entered upon the floor. I have driven across this particular road in question within the last 14 days, just to make sure I was aware of what the situation was. I agree, it's very dusty. In fact, I had to stop when I met a truck because I couldn't see where I was going. But then I compare that just to the Baker Road in my own jurisdiction that have had a problem for the last decade that I've been trying to fix. I'm glad to see that MLA Susan Corkum Greek was in attendance at the recent community meeting. Therefore, I am confident that her responsibilities as an MLA will ensure that the Nova Scotia Public Works is aware of this matter. I can list roads like the Baker Road in New Cumberland that has a dust issue. They also have a school bus issue in the spring where the kids got to walk out to the pavement because the school bus can't navigate the road. And they have to take their garbage out to the end of the road because the garbage trucks can't pass the road. I have made the local MLA aware of the situation, and I have suggested to the community that live on that road to do a petition, but I fall short of going to highways and telling them how to do their job. So thank you very much.
Deputy Mayor Vino.
Thank you. Tanner Settlement Road, Corkham's Island Road, Herring Rock Road, Back Center, Bowman, Second Peninsula. Those are the roads that I've heard from in the last 7 days, wanting road upgrades and improvements. If I supported the motion that was on the table right now, I wouldn't be doing a service to those residents because I follow the procedure. I let them know that it's a provincial road and to contact their MLA. And I also go one step further and email them on behalf. But I don't bring these roads forward to council. And I think it's really important that we're all on the same page here. Roads, I would say, is the number one thing that we hear from on our residents and often feel like there's nothing we can do, but it's a provincial matter, which many have said. I'm glad to hear that the MLA was already presented with your petition, so it is in their hands. And I also agree with the comment made by Councillor Smith that the department is not meeting their commitment. So with that in mind, I won't be supporting the motion on the table.
Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Brooks.
What I do find interesting is we're all experiencing the same thing. I don't think there's an individual at this table that hasn't had a call about dust and road concerns. And it is that tension, and it's frustrating for me, as I'm sure it is to every other councillor, to try to explain to their constituents who owns the roads, who maintains the roads. Again, I'm new here, and I don't know if this carries any weight, but I do think that the only advocacy piece that we can say back up to the province is we're all experiencing this. Every district here is experiencing it, and we are hearing endless complaints that these needs are not being met. It may get put right into the circular trash bin. I don't know. Tom's nodding, saying yes, that's probably what's going to happen. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know how we advocate back up to the province when the province just can shrug and do it. It doesn't leave our constituents feeling good, and bifurcating districts is also not going to work. So I guess I'm voicing my own question. I don't know that I'm putting forward an answer, but it is very frustrating to all of us here who are waiting for help. So I don't know what we can do, but I'm open to further conversations about how do we rattle some cages at the provincial level.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Brooks. I think that, like, general advocacy is something that the municipal council can certainly undertake on a very general basis. I do know that the NSFM and the province have still yet to figure out the schedule to the service exchange that has to do with roads. I'm not aware of what discussions are taking place between the NSFM and the province, but roads have typically been an issue that have been a priority for the NSFM. If council were inclined to take action, they could pass a motion directing the mayor to write to the premier and the minister just to generally state that more attention has to be paid on roads. I would note that according to CBC, the provincial deficit is $1.22 billion this year. So they're certainly spending money somewhere. It just doesn't appear to be on the roads in Nova Scotia, particularly rural Nova Scotia. It is a touchy subject because towns are responsible for their own roads. So the rural municipalities don't own the roads. The province has that responsibility. They have made changes to the Joint Transportation Act, so the province can compel municipal units to put money into provincial roads if they're so inclined. So there is a mechanism that the province could trigger to potentially cause municipalities, rural municipalities, to put municipal money into provincial roads. They haven't done it yet, but it's certainly something that the recent changes to the Act would allow the Minister of Public Works to do. It's not something we want to encourage, but it is. They do have that option. So it would be in order for first to deal with this motion, which is seconded. It's on the table for discussion. And then, if council were inclined, a second motion could be introduced at the higher level, as Councillor Brooks has indicated, to pass a motion directing the mayor to write a letter to the minister requesting that the province pay more attention and put more money into the roads.
Councillor Burns and then Councillor Bell.
Thank you. I'm quite torn on this motion because the concerns of the residents are completely valid. And as someone who travels that road quite regularly, it is just outside my district and I use it to get to the beach. I am one of the people who goes to the municipal use and puts dust in the air, some of which I know goes through the trees onto friends' homes that are right there, some of whom may even be in the audience today. But I would say the concerns are quite valid. In fact, I have residents on Hurdle Road. It was the #1 campaign issue as I walk down that road and continues to be the #1 issue I hear down Hurdle Road on both the condition of dust, potholes, etc. I have a similar issue with a complicating factor of it being a J-class road on Nogler Road, where people are very, very concerned that it's going to be downgraded to a gravel road that will have these problems, but are very, very concerned that it will not be paved or fixed up from the chip seal / pothole road that it continues to be now. So when it comes down to process here, my main concern as I struggle with how I'm going to vote is about how is it that we're ensuring that we're not just dealing with one local isolated issue here, which is a very valid issue, which continues to be a very valid issue across the municipality, and how is it that as the order of government closest to people who will hear about the roads likely first, how is it that we are supportive of their very valid concerns about the state of the roads that they're traveling on, the safety and the impacts on their property by having the nature of those roads there. So I'm really struggling on whether to vote yes or no on this, not because of that these aren't valid concerns. They very much are, and I very much support the residents in their fight. I'm just mainly concerned on how is it that we're not taking this to the disadvantage of the countless other residents who bring very similar, very valid concerns to us.
I'm going to go to Councillor Bell because you were the mover of the motion. So Councillor Bell and then Councillor Oikel.
Thank you. As Mr. McEwen had alluded to, NSFM were negotiating roads through service exchange in 2023 and 2022. And it came very close through negotiations that municipal units end up with a larger share of rural roads, which would, in essence, bankrupt a lot of municipal units. And I want to point out that a few years ago, citizens who lived on the Mount Pleasant Road, who had issues with the surface, threw a lot of pressure to the MLA, and some getting actually nasty for the condition of the road. The government suddenly downgraded the road from paved surface to chip seal and said, there, your road's fixed. It's worse now than it ever was, especially in the wintertime. So, as Lee Noss used to say, be careful what you ask for. You just might get it.
Councillor Oikel.
Thank you. I know that after this motion is voted on, that the suggestion probably by Tom will come forward as a motion. And I'm wondering, rather than having us have the mayor write a letter on behalf of council, if we should instead send a note to the NSFM about our request instead of the province, so that our provincial representatives will handle the situation, because it is a provincial issue, not just for us as well. So I'm just wondering if we can do that instead of a council, because that's how things go to NSFM, right, is through a council agreeing that it goes to them, and then they look after it.
There's nothing to say we can't write directly to the Premier and the Minister, the appropriate Minister. We don't have to go through NSFM. And, I mean, if we want to lodge our concerns around roads, we may end up in a whole conversation about service exchange that we don't really want to get into. I think we don't want to maybe draw attention to that. That would be my concern around that. Councillor Smith, I think we've had... Oh, sorry, Councillor Reinhardt and then Councillor Smith, and then we're going to have a vote.
Yeah, I really appreciate the concerns of the residents who are here today, because I have residents in my district who are organizing petitions. One of them, I think, has over 500 or 600 signatures now. I also have residents who are organizing community meetings, doing a lot of this work themselves because they can't get any, sometimes any response from the province. So I really appreciate these concerns, and I heard them, and I hear them at the door, and I hear them every time I go out to an event. So yeah, I don't know if selecting or if singling out certain roads is the best way forward. But we do, I'm glad that this is here today, because it is something that is coming up over and over again. And as Councillor Vino said, we should all be on the same page, and I don't know that we are. And I think that we should be talking about what we can do to support residents with these issues. Maybe that's a letter of advocacy, maybe it's something else. But I do think we need to take these concerns seriously and figure out, you know, if there's something else we can do. So.
Just before I go to you, I want to try to summarize what I'm hearing here, and I think there's a general, and I would concur with this, because it is the single biggest issue that is brought to my attention, and it's widespread, because I cover everywhere, and I've been on a lot of roads across the district, and there are many, 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 many problems. This, I think the sentiment that I'm hearing around the table is one that would suggest we don't feel this is our responsibility, in that it is provincial jurisdiction to look after the over 1,400 kilometers of roads that exist within our jurisdiction. Ours is 11.3 kilometers of road that we have jurisdiction over. So I think there is a fear here that we're stepping into territory that isn't really our responsibility, and I think I'm hearing that quite widespread. But there's also a shared belief that of the frustration that we all are experiencing, and that we should somehow direct that frustration and represent the collective interests of our community in a way that isn't captured in the motion that you're suggesting, Councillor Smith. So I could suggest that you withdraw that motion, and that and I'll just ask that I'll read what might be proposed, and then you can see what you would like to do. Okay? So we could propose that the municipal council direct the mayor to write to the provincial minister responsible for public works, Fred Tilley, and the premier regarding the conditions of road infrastructure in the municipality of Lunenburg. That covers everyone and reflects the collective interests of our community as opposed to one specific area. Now, I'll turn it back to you.
I really appreciate this conversation. As a counselor who probably has one of the biggest districts, I don't know if I have the most roads. I think some people have more smaller roads. Do you have the largest, Councillor Hughley? But anyway, this is not the first petition that has come to me about roads. Just last week, I delivered one for the Bars Corner Road. The situation in farmland and 4 Mile Road was terrible, terrible. They have patched it, but it's not a long-term solution. I've got McKay Road is terrible. Morton Road can get quite terrible as well, and the grading and the dust suppression everywhere is an issue. And I did think about this, is this going to open Pandora's box as far as people bringing petitions to us? But the fact is that this one has come to us. They had a community meeting. And before that community meeting, there was research, there were phone calls, people coming together in living rooms, delegations to the MLA. Like, there's a lot of work behind this petition that came to us, the text of this petition. And they took it one step further by meeting with the mayor and I, and asking us to bring this forward, or asking me to bring this forward. And I respect that. Like, community organizing is difficult. It makes our communities more resilient, and I really want to congratulate the group on this work. So my response is, why not see this group's advocacy and the extra step they took as the opportunity for us to speak on conditions across the district. They're showing leadership and showing up here today, and I want to honor that. So I will withdraw the motion in favor of the one that the mayor has suggested, but I would ask that we note that we had this conversation because of this community group and the petition that they brought. And that doesn't take away from anything that anyone is doing, but it just says, this community group did this organizing and highlighted this for us at council. And what came up in conversation was that this is a problem everywhere, and these are our concerns.
So we have, we just withdrew the motion, and we have another proposed motion that I'll read again, with hoping that someone will move that. And the motion is, my protocol people, parliamentary procedure are telling me that we do need.
Vote to withdraw, and then that
Okay.
annuls the motion.
Okay.
entirely.
We do need a vote to withdraw. Do we need a motion to withdraw, or,
Allison has offered that.
okay? It's been moved by Councillor Smith. Do we have a seconder? This is on the withdrawal of the motion. Seconded by Councillor Hubley. All those in favor signify by raising their hand. Motion is carried unanimously. So that motion is withdrawn. The motion that we'd like to table is that the municipal council direct the mayor to write to the provincial minister responsible for public works, Fred Tilley, and the premier regarding the condition of road infrastructure in the municipality of Lunenburg. Would someone make that a motion? Moved by Councillor Smith. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Moore. Is there discussion on that motion? Councillor Brooks.
Only that it should be included to our MLA as well, which I'm sure it would have been, but yes, thank you.
Councillor Oikel.
Yes, I'm also wondering, and I totally support this, whether or not our NSFM representative, who is part of our council, Councillor Deputy Mayor Vino, if she could be allowed to comment on whether or not sending a request to NSFM would also be appropriate and useful.
You're always welcome to send in requests to, excuse me, to NSFM, but I would caution as to comments made earlier with regards to the service exchange and where that might lead to. But again, if it's something that you would like me, even not officially, to take back to NSFM to say that we're hearing more and more road complaints, or other municipalities or towns also coming forth with that, because right now that's not a key issue that we've talked about.
Thank you.
Councillor Reinhardt.
Yeah, this isn't exactly on the motion, but just since we're on the topic, I would be interested in if there's any way we could help people with doing community organizing and community advocacy, because people are out there wanting to get involved, wanting to write petitions and organize meetings, and maybe some basic resources, you know, that we could point them to would be helpful on how to start that, because I do have people coming to me and they don't know how to start that. So.
Okay, that's not really on the motion,
I know.
Councillor Reinhardt, but we can make sure we get some suggestions to you about proper ways of doing this. We'll have a conversation about that. Is there more discussion on the motion? Councillor Smith.
Yeah, I just want to ask if this group can be included, if we can note their petition in the letter as the instigator for this letter. If not for, that's not the central purpose of the letter, but I want their efforts recognized, so I'm wondering if there's agreement on that it can be included.
Councillor Moore.
Thank you. Being one that's sat here quite a while, along with some other ones here, and some people that know how the system worked over the years, I commend Allison because she's going the extra mile for her residents, and she is like a dog with a bone, and I'm in awe of that. But to put on just the one road, I think that we're doing a disjustice to the rest of our roads in Lunenburg County and in our districts. And if we're going to mention one road, we should mention them all. Every provincial road in Lunenburg County. So I cannot support. I understand the work that the group went through, but for us to single that out in the letter, I think that that's an injustice to all our districts, and I won't support that.
It's not included in the motion. So the motion is a general statement about the whole area. So we can reference the discussion from today's meeting, if anyone wants to hear the full discussion on it, because it's broad and refers to, every councillor has spoken on issues on their road today, so.
I would just say I'd be happy if we just reference the discussion.
Are we nodding that on that? Deputy Mayor Vino.
I need some clarification on the discussion. If the discussion was that we all are in consensus that there's lack
We
of
will-
roads being fished, but if it was because of Pacific Road.
No, we will reference that every counselor spoke of issues in their district. Okay? That will be included. Is there further discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by raising their hand. Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. And to the folks in the gallery, I know from the Sweetland area, I realize that this isn't exactly what you wanted to have us do, but you can hear from the discussion that we, what was behind our decision, and we will pass on our concerns and continue to advocate when we have the opportunity to do that. We'll move on our agenda to, we have no business arising from the minutes. We have no tenders to award today. We have no presentations and no correspondence. We'll move to Policy and Strategy Committee recommendations. And the first, this is 10.1.1, which is a proposed municipal boundary adjustment land transfer. This was discussed at our Policy and Strategy meeting of September the 16th, last week. It is a request from the town of Lunenburg to adjust a boundary in the Sale Meadows subdivision. I think it's Salt, isn't it? Salt Meadows subdivision. And we are in agreement from the District of Lunenburg to accommodate this adjustment. This will make it much easier in terms of the regulatory process that these kind of adjustments have to be made on boundary decisions. The current boundary divides one property in particular, and it's a very awkward situation for both the District of Lunenburg and the town. So we both agree that this should happen. The motion, if someone would put this motion on the floor, Deputy Mayor Vino.
Thank you. To Mayor McLean-Weil and members of council, I move that Municipal Council accept the recommendation of the Policy and Strategy Committee and agree to the boundary line adjustment of the mutual boundary in Salt Meadows subdivision as requested by the town of Lunenburg, and further, that the mayor be authorized to submit a joint application with the town of Lunenburg to the Nova Scotia Regulatory and Appeals Board to approve the requested change in the mutual boundary, and I so move.
Is there a seconder for the motion? Seconded by Councillor Brooks. And if anyone wants to hear the full discussion, you can go to Policy and Strategy meeting of September the 16th, and the documents associated with this are in the agenda package from today. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by raising their hand. Motion is carried unanimously. We'll move on to Building Bylaw Repeal and Replacement, 10.1.2, and this is another recommendation coming from Policy and Strategy, and I wonder if we want to have a little summary of the discussion. This first came to council meeting on September the 9th, and for anyone watching this or listening, you can go back to hear those details. Then it was brought forward, sent back to Policy and Strategy for further clarification, and it's now before us today. So,
good morning. Just a couple highlights. There's three main changes to this building bylaw. One of them is to remove the fee structure that was in the bylaw and moving it to the fee policy. The other one was, or the other two, is the requirement for location certificates. That's would deal with mostly new structures on the property, not for additions or sheds, but it's mostly the main structure. And the third item is the expiry of the building permit, which would be, it expires after 1 year and has the possibility of two renewals, 2 one-year renewals for a total of 3 years for a building permit before it would have to be reapplied for again. Council had some questions about some clarity on the expiry of the permit, so we went back to Policy and Strategy and clarified that it was existing permits would not be affected by this new bylaw.
Thank you, Mr. Hopkins. Would someone put the motion on the floor, and then we can have any discussion that's necessary? Councillor Oyko.
Thank you. Mayor McLean, Weil, and members of council, I move that municipal council accept the recommendation of the Policy and Strategy Committee and conduct second reading to repeal and replace bylaw 018 Building Code bylaw as presented, and I so move.
Is there a seconder for the motion? Seconded by Councillor Brooks. Discussion on the motion. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by raising their hand. Motion is carried unanimously. We'll move to the Audit Committee, which the Audit Committee met just prior to today's council meeting. And I'll ask Ms. Wenzel to come forward with, to address any questions may have arisen from that short meeting a short time ago. Would someone put the motion on the floor from the audit, recommended from the Audit Committee? Councillor Moore.
To Mayor McLean, Wall, and members of council, I move that the municipal council accept the recommendation of the audit committee and approve the municipality of the District of Lunenburg's financial statements for the year ended March 31st, 2025.
A seconder for the motion, seconded by Councillor Hubley. Is there discussion or questions coming from this morning's meeting or related to the audited statements? All those in favor of accepting the financial statements, raise their hands. Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Staff reports will move to administration and the Fire Services Annual Update. Mr. Kennedy, please.
How's that, better? Okay. So thank you, Mayor and Council, for allowing me to do this today. Some of you may have already heard this from the Fire Services Committee. This one. Okay, that may make a difference. There we go. Thank you, sir. So yeah, I'm just going to give you an update on from the registration process this year. So I'll just give you the information that was collected from the registrations that we have taken in for the 2024 year. So this just gives you an idea of the Fire Service Awards. So I presented earlier this year on awards for 2024. So I'm not going to re-present those again, but those were recognized for all the firefighters that received their service awards. And I just wanted to show this new, the Canadian Volunteer Fire Services medals that we provide. Used to have a bar for each of the 5-year increments after 30 years up to 50. And the new configurations that they would like everybody to standardize to is what we see in the picture here. So it'll have a 30-year, a 35. So when somebody looks at a medal across the country, when a fire service, a volunteer has them on, don't know exactly how many years of service they have just by looking at that medal. And when they go to replace the bars, they only have to replace the one instead of replacing all 3 or however many are on it. So just to kind of standardize it, and I think they kind of look nice and crisp, and it makes them kind of look presentable, I think. So I just mentioned that. I worked with some fire departments last year on some key issues and concerns and helped mitigate some plans and possible solutions, which is part of my role when I can help out in those areas. We did several one-on-ones with firefighters that needed some support and sent some of them towards some counseling areas where needed. So that's one of the things I'm able to help them with. with some of the training I have. This is I always like to add this to it every year. It's just the Firefighters Memorial in Ottawa. It's an amazing tribute to all the fallen firefighters across our country. If you ever get to go there, it's an amazing, amazing thing to look at. If you're ever there as part of the ceremonies in September when they hold them, it'll give you goosebumps and make you really kind of humble yourself. So information collected from the registration process. So there was just two numbers here. The first number is off this year, off of like the 2024 information that we collected, and the other number is from the previous year. So medical first responders collected from the registration packages were 173, and there were 277. Structural firefighters were 305, and there were 346. Active firefighters, 580, and there were 605. Junior firefighters, 29, and there were 39 in the year prior to that. Auxiliary members, 101, and prior to that, 122. Honorary members, 145, and there were one. Self-contained breathing apparatus, flow checks were all completed, and all pump testing was completed, with one unique fire department being Big Tancock Island Emergency Response Association, with just having the ability to have a technician to go out there and do those tests on the island is very cumbersome and expensive for this time. So once we get the car ferry in place, we're going to work on a solution for them to be able to carry them out easier when the person can go back and forth on the ferry, because he has quite a bit of equipment and everything he has to take out there to do those. So we're going to work on that process when that takes place. This is just kind of a history. This was not on the slides for the Fire Services Committee, but I thought it'd be good for councilors to see this. So these are the numbers from 2017 till today. So in 17, there were 583 firefighters, 51 juniors. The next year, 581 and 50, 2019, 589 and 34. So you can see as we go down through these, the numbers kind of fluctuate up and down. And that's just how the volunteer fire service is. It's cyclic. It's just the way it is. It's up and down, and it goes all over the place. So, but the numbers are what they are. In 21, we had 597 active firefighters and 35 juniors. 22, we had 583 active firefighters and 31 juniors. In 23, we had 603 and 39. In 24, we had 605 and 39. In 2025, we had 580 and 29. So you can look through the history of that, and the numbers always fluctuate within those numbers. It seems like it's kind of a standard. It's just what it is. Information on some of the additional things we collected this year. So we've got some training levels for level 1 firefighter training. So there was 2 ways to have level 1 firefighter training, and it's basic firefighting is what it is. So it's all of the essentials that you need to be a firefighter and all the things that go along with it. So all the competencies that you need to have in order to do those roles. So in level 1 training, there was 276. So that means they either took the training at what level, at some level, to get that level 1 firefighter training, and there is a local group that in Lunenburg Regional that does some level 1 training, and this is the 3rd year they've been doing that. And we've also, as part of our strategic training, is part of our strategic planning. So we're having another meeting with the Lunenburg Regional Group to see how we can move that forward, as was part of one of their concerns. There was level 1 Pro Board certified, so this was through the Nova Scotia Firefighter Services Fire School. There was 36 that had the actual pro-rate board, which is recognized across North America. Safety officers, 10. Occupational health and safety officers, 5. Officers in total, 168, and officers with training, 101. So that's what we collected from for that data. These are some of the most significant type calls that are on here. I didn't put every little tiny call on there because the pie would have got kind of too hard to look at with too much information, but this gives you kind of an overview of some of the big ones. So, you know, it was 30 structure fires, but it was only 2% of the calls. So in 2024, there were 1,254 calls. Oh, that should be 2025, actually. Oh, that's right. That's last year's numbers. So there was 1,254 calls, and the year prior to that, there was 1,455. So numbers are up and down. It depends on a multiple of things. and it depends on medical calls or all the different things. So there's no real rhyme or reason to it, it's just how things are. And you can see some of the different ones here. There's grass and wood fires were 4%. What was that? Mutual aid calls, 32% of the call volumes. Medicals, 19%. Those are kind of the biggest. Motor vehicle collisions, 16%. Illegal burns are small. Smell of smoke, 2%. You'll probably see a higher number for that next year because of the fires we had in Long Lake, but this is what the numbers were for that. So the fire service is busy, no doubt about it. And they're getting calls for service more and more because we have more and more residents moving into the area, and you have more traffic on the roads, and so they see more and more calls for service. Funding to the fire service is outside of their fire department area rates, so the municipality pays the WCB premiums. That's a figure in the budget of $51,800. And then they have recruitment and retention items. We have a family and employee program to help them with some counseling and things like that. So some firefighters have used those. It's not highly utilized, but you know there has been a couple of firefighters that utilize that throughout the year, and if they can get help with it, that's great. There is a provincial one that's free, and we decided that we would keep this online for a couple of years to see if that one fades off or not. I've heard some good things and some not good things, so it all depends on who you talk with and who the individual is they get on the other end of the phone, but they all seem to get help when they do call. So, in our program, I've had some good results from that when I've heard firefighters that have had use with it. And that's a total of $119,600. Approved grants for the fire service with the 2% increase are here, and I think I reported on those back in February when council passed those. So a total of monies that the fire service takes just from grants and other options is $321,000 and some change. And there's also a fire prevention, and we do some advertising and stuff for that, and some basic kits that we help put together for them just to help them aid. It doesn't give them all the fire prevention materials that they use, but it helps supplement it a little bit. So it's all important. Fire prevention is very important, and that's coming up on October 5th to the 11th this year. So you're going to see fire departments have open houses and things like that. And I think there will be a parade, I think in Lunenburg this year. The firefighter 50/50 draw funding raising that they have. So this has given firefighter and fire departments a lot of funding and support from the communities through this 50/50 draw that is done on a weekly basis. And it saves a lot of them having to do extra fundraising that they used to do years ago. So they don't have to put as much time into the, the fundraising end of it, and they can spend more time on the training and things that they really should be doing. So the 50/50 proceeds were $722,909, and the fire department fundraising was $453,666. So they're still fundraising a pretty good chunk of money. And there's a couple of fire departments out there that raise over $100 and some thousand a year alone. So, and they have some groups that do that fundraising for them. It's not always just firefighters. So that's kind of a neat thing that some of them do. Recruitment attention, that's still something that Sarah has a big part on and plays on, and she does advertising and things like that to help with it. The numbers seem to have, I say stabilized, but they're not dropping off drastically. They're kind of in that cyclic mode. We have that EAP for volunteer firefighters and their families. Leadership soft skills, we offer that, so there's a small amount of money put aside annually for doing some soft skill training, and there was one last year, and there's another fire department this year that's already interested, so we're working on getting some dates for that, and there could be possibly a second department. So we go right to the department and do that training for them. Designed for leadership to be able to deal with difficult situations and respect in the workplace and all those kind of things get talked about. And now we're opened up for the whole fire department because it's good if everybody's on the same page. And it's not any more costful if those are there. So that's how we've been doing that. And I do some, I offer some grounding and centering and resiliency things for the fire department. So I've done a few of those this year and spoke at a couple of different events on those. So. And that's kind of it. So these are just some pictures from around the different area. And I put this little, I don't know if I had that in last year's, but I just say, This little one here in the bottom in the middle, teasing my brother about his career. I asked what kind of crazy person runs into a fire. His reply was, one that is well-trained. So anyway, with that, I leave it there, and if you have any questions.
Councillor Wickle.
Thank you very much, Chris. This is always very informative, and I know that you do a really great job. I'm just wondering, do we know how many departments are doing all of them? Like, because not everyone has to do mutual aid. Not everyone has to do all the medical calls. They don't all have to go to motor vehicle calls. And so I'm just wondering if we have numbers on how many of our departments are doing those types of things.
I could probably take that out of the data we collected, but just from the knowledge that I have of the departments and from the information we've collected, 99% of the departments have some type of mutual aid in place, whether it's an automatic one, and the majority are using automatic mutual aid protocols now. So we have the overarching one the municipality has that they all sign on, and then we have individual departments that have bordering departments that'll have needs for like a structure fire or a motor vehicle collision with entrapment, and they'll have certain types of key vehicles utilized to come to those calls. So the majority of departments do utilize them. I mean, if you want the exact numbers, I can try to get those tallied for you. And first response, the majority of the departments are doing first response at a couple of different levels. So the majority are doing like cardiac arrest only, and then there's a few that do cardiac arrest, difficult breathing, and those kind of things. So that's kind of it. I can give you the actual numbers. If I give you some time, I can dig them up for you.
Supplemental? Yeah, because I was at the meeting that the province was doing, and, you know, a lot of the conversation was the concern of the retention for doing some of these things, such as motor vehicle and the first responder, and the trauma that can sometimes come with that, right?
Yep.
And that not necessarily are all of our firefighters really prepared emotionally for that type of trauma, right, that can happen to that.
Yeah, so that's a valid point. They do, when you're in the fire service or any kind of first response, trauma is definitely something that you're going to see sooner or later. It doesn't matter how long you've been in there, sooner or later you're going to see stuff that people aren't supposed to see. But that's what you sign up for when you do first responder duties, right? And there are things in place that the fire service has that can help offset that. So we have a critical incident stress management team across the province, and that team brings an expertise with a mental health person and a team. Whenever there's traumatic events, the fire department can call on that team to come in, and it helps to not neutralize, but kind of helps them kind of understand that it's normal to feel the way they feel, and then they go through a process to kind of go around and take a journey. You start at a point and walk around the room 2 or 3 different times to get information. And usually when you do that process, everybody understands that we all feel differently and we all feel things same. So it all depends. But everybody understands, like, well, I'm feeling this and I didn't say anything. And I know that you spoke, say, at a circle when we do these. And they say that person speaks. So that's kind of how we kind of help each other that way to keep that normalized to a degree that people understand. And if they need to go further than that, then they can go get some professional counseling if they need it. But there are services in place, and it is well utilized in the fire service to help that. Does it help everybody? No, it does not. But it does really help a lot to have that in place to help firefighters and first responders in that area when they need it. I've been involved with those on both sides of the equation, and I know that they do work, and they do have a very good place in the fire service to help keep their heads in the game. So yeah, that's kind of, I guess I kind of rambled on about that, but that's a passion of mine to try to make sure that we keep our firefighters safe and their heads in the game, because if they don't do that, the red trucks or the yellow trucks don't go out the door, right?
Councillor Brooks and then Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy, for all this information today. I just had 2 quick little questions. Do you guys track the average age of your volunteers throughout the district?
Valid question, then. No, we do not actually track ages, but I can tell you the ages are like all over the map, from 20s to late 70s.
Yeah,
So
sure.
they're all over the map.
It seems on that chart that 580 around that area has been what has historically been our district complement. Do you feel like that's adequate, or is that what we've just historically drawn?
That just seems to be where we're at, like at any given time. And like I say, it's a very cyclic thing. And it's also a very demanding thing when you take that on. Like, it's not like volunteering for other organizations. When you volunteer to be a first responder, whether it's fire or whatever, but when you volunteer to be a first responder as a firefighter, there's dangers and responsibilities that come with that. So the training and your ability to do those things and keep safe so that everybody goes home at the end of the day, that's what it's really about, right?
Yeah.
So.
Thank you. And just one last question. Do we see typically the junior firefighters, most of them transition to full-time volunteer?
I can't tell you an exact number, but I know that there is a transition period where some of them do transition over, and there are others that may move off to other areas of the province or the country and volunteer when they move to different areas. So we may lose them here, but there'll also be a value for a response or some kind of volunteerism to wherever they move to. But there is a transitional period, whether it be like a couple of years or they stay here for good. But I can't tell you for sure even how long that is, because it's no guarantee how long you're going to retain somebody, right?
Yep. Thank you very much.
Councillor Smith.
Thanks for the report. I just wanted to ask a question about dry hydrants. Since I think, with the wildfires again this summer and the severe drought that we've been experiencing, I know that I've received a lot of calls about dry hydrants, and there's at least 3 road associations or lot associations that are looking into putting in dry hydrants. And I have to admit, before I came to this table, I didn't know what dry hydrants were. So I wonder if you could just explain what they are, and I know it's in our work plan to look at dry hydrants and possibly a program, so I wonder if you could just talk about that a little bit.
Sure, I'll give you kind of a quick overview of what they are. So it's a 6-inch pipe typically that's put into a static water source, whether it be a pond or a river or even like an underground cistern could be used. We don't have any in our county like that are used for that. And it's just a static water source that has a pipe that has a fire department hookup on it and a screen that's out under the water. The fire truck or apparatus can roll up to it, hook their suction line into the dry hydrant, and pull water out of it. So they can either use it as a supply line from an engine, or they can use it as a fill site for tankers that run to the scenes. So that's kind of how it's utilized. There's been a change in it in the last couple of years, so now you have to have an application presented to the Department of Environment. That'll eventually go to Fisheries also, and then you have to use, they have a table of people that are professionals that do the design and the installation, and then they have to have somebody do the inspection of them when they're completed. So there's a whole process that you have to go through now. Years ago, fire departments could put them in themselves with just an easy application process, but now they have to use the approved people from the Department of Environment to put them in. So it just adds another little layer, but they're still putting them in. So that's what they're used for. Right now, there's just probably, I see Queens County had done some pictures of some of the dry hydrants in areas, and a good portion of the ones they have in some of the more rural areas are useless right now because they're in mud, or there's no water. So, yeah, that's kind of what they do, and that's kind of how they work.
So I know I've forwarded a couple requests. Have you heard a lot of, had a lot of requests for information about these this year?
Yeah, there's quite a few requests come in from different organizations and fire departments, like asking about that, and it seems like every year there's more and more that are coming in asking about it. I've probably had 4 or 5 maybe in the last year that have asked for it. There's a couple of the homeowners associations or whatever have done it, and a couple of fire departments. So it's not huge, but there is more and more all the time that are asking about it, especially with, like I say, the wildfire risks. And
Councillor Reinhardt.
Thanks for the report. I just wanted to mention that one thing I've been hearing a lot about at the departments is more interest in getting the junior firefighters programs kind of revived. So do we have any resources to support them? I know some have even mentioned perhaps teaming up, like some of the smaller departments teaming up and having a joint
Yeah,
junior
so
firefighter.
some have done that, teamed up in the past when numbers were low, and then when numbers go back up to like 8 or 10, where they could have a group that could get together to practice. I have nothing really in place that I can give them to start a volunteer fire department. I mean, I've been involved with it in the past, but a lot of departments will reach out to each other that has an active junior department that's working, and they'll reach out to them and say, what did you do, what do we need to do, and how did you go through that process? Yeah, so I kind of help them that way. I don't just have something in paper that I can give them, but I mean, it's something that we could probably look at, but I don't get a lot of requests about junior fire department things, but I know a lot of departments do kind of work in tangent with each other to work those things out and how they've done it.
Any other questions? I just have one quick question on wildfire training.
Yep.
And is there specific training? And do
Yes.
we have some of our firefighters
Yes.
here that have taken that?
Yes and yes.
Okay.
The majority of not I say the majority, but there is a large number of the volunteer service that has taken the wildland firefighter training, and the DNR people come around and do training on a regular basis. When they're asked in the spring, they'll come around and do some training. Fire departments a lot of times do their own training in the spring also, just to refresh themselves and get familiar with the equipment and gear every year. But, you know, wildfires are happening in February in other areas when there's no snow and there's like grass on the ground that can burn, right? So, yes, but there are actually, and they get a little card saying that they were trained by Natural Resources, and they're able to respond if they need to wildfire. So, yeah.
Just one last question. I know that many of the fire departments here responded, and that was coordinated through our emergency management, and yourself, I expect, were involved in that. Can you just make a comment about how that worked and our ability to respond and support? Because it seems, what I kept hearing was, you know, the experience in Shelburne really helped to inform some of the things we needed to do to be ready. And then, you know, 2 years later, here we are with a very serious neighboring fire, and how ready we are to respond and to support other communities, but also be ready ourselves.
Yeah, no, that's a very valid question. I had some conversation with Angela throughout the process. She was the spearhead that organized that through the command system out in the valley where they were doing it. So her and the chair and vice chair of the Lunenburg Regional Group, so she would get a request from the command in Long Lake, and they'd say, we were looking for this type of apparatus and these many people to run the equipment. She would contact 2 individuals in Lunenburg Regional, and they would reach out to the fire chiefs and say, this is what we're looking for. How many can you supply? Can you do what? Who can do what? And then they would come back with numbers and who they would send, and they would try to always make sure that they were picking departments in areas that they wouldn't take too many from one area. So they may take one from Dayspring, or one from Northfield, or one from Bridgewater or Hebville or whatever, so they weren't taking all the assets from one area, so that there was always assets in all the areas where they took something from that still had coverage. So that's kind of how they utilized it.
Did it work well?
I think so.
Okay.
You're always going to have somebody that's not happy, but it did, you know, from what I hear, that when they asked for things, they got what they wanted, and they got the equipment and the personnel out there when they needed them there, so yeah.
Yes, I would say you're absolutely correct to reference the Shelburne experience. We learned a lot from that, and a lot of credit goes to our fantastic manager of emergency services, Angela Henhofer, who stepped up in a big way during the Shelburne fires, and then did an after-action report and worked with the fire service to evaluate what worked and didn't work. And two big pieces of feedback we got was there's concern about mutual aid, and leaving a region within our own municipality underserved if we were to have a fire in our own area. And so during the Shelburne fires, they worked to improve scheduling to make sure that, as Chris mentions, you draw from different areas so that you don't have one set of communities that don't have pumpers, for example.
Yeah.
But the other part that we heard was that our volunteers are fantastic, and they are committed to this work, and they are excited by it. And so departments that didn't have relationships outside of our region felt left out, and they wanted to participate. And so coordinating it regionally allowed for us to draw from different departments. It wasn't reliant on, well, this chief happens to have a relationship with a chief down the shore, and so he gets a direct call. And so the only holdup for us this time around with the Dalhousie fires was getting the requests from the right channels in the Annapolis side, where they have relatively new emergency management staff. They didn't have the same relationships with their fire service, and getting the request for assistance to come through the right spots so that the Lunenburg Regional crew and Angela could coordinate. But once that was up and running, we were able to use the same system.
Yeah, I think that Angela's planning on going to the Lunenburg Region Group to give them a presentation on how the overall Long Lake fires went. Might be a good idea for her to come do the same for you guys also. But she is amazing, and like I say, she did all the legwork and all the heavy hitting on this. I just checked in on whether or not again to see how it was going, but she did all the work on this one, for sure.
Yeah, it seems to me that we'll continue to have many lessons, and the reality is, I think, certainly I heard it all summer, people's heightened awareness of the risk of wildfire, because so many of our residents live in wooded areas, and this fire seemed really close, and it was, particularly in the northern part of the municipality. So I think it is a reality that we need to be on top of in terms of having people ready and being organized. So it's good to hear that we have a basis for how we respond.
Yeah, she actually came up with a really good, she has a really good relationship with the volunteer fire service. Since she's been here, she's made that one of her goals was to make sure that she had a good working relationship, and I think they have an equal respect back and forth for what she does. And she'll always say, I'm not here to take over anything, I'm not here to tell fire service how to do anything, but she just helps to arrange and help with the scheduling when things need to be done right. The volunteer fire service, they're amazing. They don't even blink an eye when they're asked to go. They just do it right. And I don't know if anybody's ever experienced wildfire, but those wildfires out there and the ones in Shelburne were like wildfires they've never ever seen before, and the fire behaviors we've never seen in the province before. They're totally violent. They're totally get out of hand, and there's a lot of danger involved. So I take my hat off to all of them that did that. And I think that's amazing what they do.
Any other questions? Thank you, Chris, very much for that. We will do one more item and then we'll take a break. And the next item is from Planning and Development. It's a letter of support for the Power Bank Solar Garden Project in Simpsons Corner. And Abhi will lead us in this, give us some background, and then there is a motion that we will deal with.
Good morning, everyone. Let me quickly open up my notes. As Mayor already mentioned, this agenda item is about a request from PowerBank TriMac Engineering and AI Renewable for a letter of support for their proposed 3 megawatt community solar garden project near Simpsons Corner in New Germany area. The proponents are applying to the Nova Scotia's community solar program. They have already completed site assessment, preliminary design, and preliminary interconnection review. They have also engaged community. They hosted 2 public meetings, one on July 14th at Hamford District Fire Department and one online on July 28th. About 60 nearby property owners, residents were notified of these engagement sessions, as well as staff, council members, and the district councilors were informed. The project offers several benefits, including energy cost savings for the subscribers who would receive 2 cents per kilowatt hour credit on their electricity bills. It also supports local clean energy generation, which aligns with the producing green electricity right here in our municipality, increasing grid resilience, and supporting our climate and energy transition goals. It also provides economic benefits. The development and construction of solar garden will create local jobs and support growth of our regional green economy. I also do want to mention about other consideration. As you all would know, as I also had mentioned in my report, in partnership with our 2 other municipal units, we also had put out an application for the same program for our 7 megawatt community solar garden project at the Oak Hill site. For clarification purposes, as you all know, Council has already passed a motion to transfer our application to a private entity. It's the same proponent, AI Renewable and Power Bank. At its September 9th Council meeting, Council passed the motion. A media release also went out yesterday confirming the same. But the focus of today's agenda is about the separate request, 3 megawatt proposal from the same proponent. Strategic focus-wise, it aligns with Council's 3 priorities: climate action, economic development, and it also supports IDEA commitments as by offering priority access for low-income households and seniors. There are no budget implications should Council decides to provide this letter of support. In conclusion, I think the project has lots of merits, and staff recommends Council provides a letter of support to the proponents for their project submission. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Could we have the motion put on the floor, and then we'll open it for discussion? Councillor Hubley.
To Mayor McLean-Weil and members of council, I move that Municipal Council provide a letter of support to PowerBank, TriMac Engineering, and AI Renewable for their proposed 3 megawatt community solar garden project near Simpsons Corner, New Germany, PID 602-64918, and I so move.
A seconder for the motion, seconded by Councillor Moore. Is there discussion on the motion or questions? Councillor Hubley.
Not really a question, just a comment. I'm in favor of greening the grid. However, I feel 2 cents per kilowatt is not near enough, given that the consensus at these community meetings is that Nova Scotia Power is robbing them blind. I agree with that. So yeah, it's not enough, but it's something, and we'll take what we can get. I'm in favor.
Councillor Smith.
So we're talking about power bank and solar power, and the report does reference our application. Are we permitted to ask questions about the other project that we?
The motion is on the floor, is specific to this project in Simpsons Corner.
Okay. I support greening the grid, but in order for me to provide a letter of support for this project, I feel that there should be some review of the program that indicates whether municipalities can be successful through this program. That's my view. I really value community-owned power and energy infrastructure, and it seems like there's a lot of success for private companies in this model. And I'm not saying there isn't room for private companies, but the opportunity seemed to have been there for municipalities, and I don't feel comfortable writing a letter of support without also saying, okay, is this program designed with the success of municipalities in mind as well?
I'm going to ask Tom to speak to it, but this is a specific request from a private company. We're not involved at all in this project, other than they've made a presentation to us. They've had a public meeting, and they're requesting our support. And I think Abhi has outlined how it does align with our climate change strategy, and that's why it's before us. On your issues around the adequacy of the provincial program and its relationship with municipality involved, or community group involvement in the solar industry, that's another issue, but Tom can speak to that.
Thank you, Mayor. So with respect to the program that has been put forward by the province, one of the elements that they request for proponents to submit is a letter of support from the municipality in which the project is going to be situated. And it's all scored. So it's a scored approach because it's a competitive in nature. Although SolarBank, AI, and TriMac Engineering are listed as their proponents, that's not to say that they can't partner with a community organization as part of their application, but they don't necessarily have to tell us what that application is. There are other successes in the province, and I believe there were 3, although it's reported in CKBW News that 2 of the successful applications were in Lunenburg County. That is not true. They have application in Lunenburg County, but their successes were outside of our county. But what they've set up is partnerships in those other applications with community groups and First Nations. Because those get scored additional points if they can get those partnerships. So this isn't an opportunity for us to comment on the program. Councillor Hubley noted that 2 cents per kilowatt hour it's better than nothing, but it's certainly not great. But this isn't the opportunity for us to offer comment on the program. It's simply the request by SolarBank for the letter of support, which they file as part of their application, and that's mandated inside the program that's been issued by Nova Scotia Power in partnership with the province.
Councillor Brooks.
I'll just say that I'm also in support of greening our grid. I won't be supporting this motion or any motion that has boatloads of solar panels coming from China. So I'm not going to support that. When we start talking about wind, I'll be in support of that, but I'm not going to support this motion.
Other comments?
I just want to mention about the name change. So for the clarification's sake, the SolarBank, when they presented to council in July, post that meeting, they went through a name change, the company itself. Now they have been renamed as PowerBank. So just so why the name is different in the motion and to avoid any confusion for the record. So it's PowerBank, but the same company, the SolarBank.
Any other questions? All those in favor signify by raising their hand. Those opposed? Councillor Brooks and Councillor Smith are opposed. Motion is carried. We will take a 10-minute break. We could reconvene our meeting, please. We'll start with Recreation, Parks, and Tourism, and Ms. Cunningham will talk about capital funding reallocation for Dynamite Trail.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. The Dynamite Trail Association was awarded $50,000 in the 2025-26 capital budget towards the Martins River Bridge project. However, due to supply challenges, this project is no longer to proceed as planned. The association is requesting the reallocation of $20,000 of the awarded funding to an alternative bridge project, which is identified as Bridge C. This bridge would be at Commons Lake, the third bridge west. The scope of this work includes elevating the existing bridge by installing concrete blocks as a foundation to flood-proof the bridge. This work is anticipated to be completed in late October or November 2025. Thank you.
Would someone put the motion on the floor and then we can discuss or ask questions, please? Councillor Hubley, thank you.
Oh, it would be Casey's.
Okay. To Mayor McLean-Weil and members of council, I move that Municipal Council reallocate $20,000 of the capital funding previously awarded to the Dynamite Trail Association for the Martins River Bridge project to the association's Bridge C project located in the Commons Lake area. And I so move.
And a seconder for the motion? Deputy Mayor Vino. Discussion on the motion. Councillor Brooks.
Hi, thanks for coming in. Can you tell us a little bit about this second bridge? Is it to replace the project that fell through? Is it one that had been serviced before, or is this an entirely new bridge?
So this will be a new bridge project. The Martins River project is no longer to proceed, so this will be an alternative project. And it's simply to flood-proof it. So they're going to elevate the bridge so that with any water that comes through, it won't be affecting the bridge as much as it currently is.
Sorry, it has been getting flooded in the last few years. Is that what they're dealing with?
I wouldn't be able to answer that at this time without talking to the association.
Okay.
Other questions? Councillor Bell.
For the record, this Commons Lake area, I believe it's between the Narrows and Indian Point and is in MODL. So I just confirming that.
That would be my understanding, yes.
Yes. Okay.
Other questions? All those in favor? Oh, Councillor Boyko.
Will they be getting funding from anywhere else?
So the request is $20,000 to MODL, and then the remaining budget would be supported by the Dynamite Trail Association using the balance of their bridge fund, which is from the HST rebates on last year's bridge renovation at Mush Mush River.
Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by raising their hand. Motion is carried unanimously. Engineering and Public Works, Mr. Pace.
Good morning, I'm Mayor and Council. I'm here to present the J-Class Road paving priorities for 26-27. As part of the Municipal Service Exchange going back to the 1990s, the province cost shares 50% of the expense of upgrades, that is paving, of J-Class roads within the municipality. Nova Scotia Public Works has asked the municipality to submit its paving priorities for 2026-2027, and they're usually due October 31st of each year for the next year. And as part of the agreement, those roads that did not get approved in the year 2025-2026, they'll be carried over to the next year. The J-Class roads submitted for paving in 25-26 fiscal year were not approved, and therefore the same list of J-Class roads will be carried forward and submitted for 26-27 fiscal year. Budget implications, we allocate in our MODL 5-year financial strategy includes $350,000 per year, including net HST for our J-Class road improvements. So the recommendation that Council authorize staff to submit to the Nova Scotia Department of Public Works the following roads as the J-Class road paving priorities, and they go in this order. Number 1, Darby's Head Road. It's 0.45 kilometers. Number 2, St. Augustine's Road at 1.13 kilometer. Riverside Heights, 0.1 kilometer. Freeman Crescent, 0.37 kilometers. Riverview Drive, 0.18 kilometer. And Church Road at 0.25 kilometers.
We have in our report 0.15 for Riverview Drive. Is it 0.15 or 0.18?
You probably have the latest one. I think I have an earlier draft, sorry. Yes.
It's 0.1.
The one in the council report would be correct.
Okay.
Yep. Thanks.
Questions on this after our road discussion this morning? Councillor Brooks.
Just a question, Mr. Pace. You said that you allocate $350,000 a year for this paving program. Does that roll over every year? Is that accrued each year? So do we have more than $350,000 at this moment, or does it always stay at $350,000?
It's probably a question for a director of finance, but I think it sometimes when they tender, they come in over that, and we haven't used it for 2 years. So on the rollover, I'm not sure. Tom.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Councillor Brooks. So we budget for it annually, and if we don't spend it, it rolls into the surplus at the end of the year. And then in the event that the budget requires more funds, we will get an estimate. If the province accepts any of our roads, we first get their estimate for the roads they've approved. We have to approve, then council approves the estimate, and then they tender. And if the tender is over 10% more than the estimate, council has to reapprove the funds. So if it's over our budget, then council can allocate additional funds if necessary, and that would be coming from the reserve accounts.
Councillor Moore.
The whole J-Class road thing is a joke when it comes to us submitting names of roads, J-Class roads to get paved. It always comes in over budget. There's so many J-Class roads in our districts. Some people have some people don't. But I can't see, I will support putting these ones forward, but I know after all these years that what's going to happen. You might get one or something like that. It's going to come in over budget, and then it's just very disappointing that the province has not gone ahead and made some kind of policy or something that all the J-Class roads will get done in a certain time. Because our subdivision roads, our J-Class roads, we give them, I forget how many $1,000 a year, $78,000 a year, I think, or something like that, for maintenance on our J-Class roads. Well, it doesn't go on the J-Class roads. It just goes in one big pot of money for the DOT. And what happens is they're grading bedrock, they're grading the J-Class roads, and 2 days later after a rain, the potholes are all back there again because there's no new surfacing being put on it. So I have a very hard time submitting these names, knowing that you might get one, you might get two. If not, we'll put them back on for next year. It's not working. So I'm hoping I will support this motion, but because the roads are in certain councilors' areas, but the fact is I'm hoping that the province sees that this is not working.
Could we get the motion on the floor? Councillor Bell.
Thank you. Do you want me to include the mileages where it was already given in the?
Just the names.
Okay, thank you. To the mayor and councillors, I move that municipal council authorize staff to submit the following roads as J-Class road paving priorities to the Nova Scotia Department of Public Works in the following order. 1. Darby's Head Road. 2. St. Augustine's Road. 3. Riverside Heights. 4. Freeman Crescent. 5. Riverview Drive. 6. Church Road. I so move.
Is there a seconder for the motion, please? Seconded by Deputy Mayor Vino. Further discussion on the motion. Councillor Burns.
No, I was going to make a joke, but I'm not going to. I just want folks who would be listening to the public record of this to know, especially those who'd be interested in Nogler Road, which in itself would be a much larger discussion than any roads that are on this list, that the policy of council is that we have the roads, and if we submit them and they are not accepted for paving with the province, that we continue with that list until roads are knocked off, at which point we're able to put more roads on. The residents of Nogler Road have not missed their proverbial day in court with regard to the issues they have with their road, and in fact anyone in any residents in that area would probably be more successful having a conversation that would put that road outside of this J-Class list, as it is going to be a situation that is unique to itself, both in the condition of the road, the length of the road, and the involvement in the province and whether or not it turns into a connector versus subdivision road. So for any of my residents who are listening, my support of this list is simply because this is a process piece to continue to move a list forward that we had established in previous years, but has not yet been picked up by the province. It has nothing to do with the priority of these roads vis-a-vis Nogler Road or any of the other roads that people have talked to me about, like Back Roads 2 or the Hurdle Road. Those will largely be separate discussions if they need to be had.
Any other? Deputy Mayor Vino.
Just further to Councillor Burns' points, it's very discouraging when we submit these lists year after year, and I think some of these names go back as far as 2020, when we were looking at the list of roads to submit. But it is the process, and we are doing our part in that. And I also wanted to clarify, because it has been known in the public from some of my residents, that we decide when these roads get done. We make a suggestion. We don't decide. The province chooses what J-Class roads they want to upgrade or do maintenance to, and we just make sure we have the money to cost share on our end. Ultimately, it's up to the province for that. Just wanted to clarify.
Further discussion. All those in favor signify by raising their hands. Motion is carried unanimously. We will move to 11.4.2, which is a lot adjustment on Nathan Cirillo Pump Station Generator Project. Mr. Richardson.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. So a bit of background on the lot adjustment for the Nathan Cirillo Pump Station Generator Project. The Municipality District of Lunenburg included in the 2025-26 capital budget the purchase and installation of a permanent generator at the pump station located at 22 Nathan Cirillo Road, as well as a mobile generator for the pump stations located in New Germany. The selected location for this generator was behind the existing pump station, which required land acquisition. Installing the generator inside the existing parcel, Nathan Cirillo Road right-of-way, was not possible for a few factors, including available grades in that location and the proximity to the power transmission lines overhead. The trading of parcels with the neighboring land parcel would allow for the generator to be placed on the parcel D, which would be the yellow area shown on the attached plan of the council package, and the blue parcel be transferred to the adjacent lot owner. The blue parcel was originally what we call a pole of lot 25-1 flag lot to allow access to lot 25-1 from Nathan Cirillo Road, so allow access from the road to the lot. This lot has now been designated as green space and will not be developed, which will not require the access to be retained by MODL. The relatively small area surrounding the Nathan Cirillo Pump Station makes locating a generator of suitable power difficult in a safe and aesthetically pleasing way. The acquisition of this parcel will allow for the generator to be installed with an appropriate clear area surrounding the generator for maintenance purposes, access to services such as sewer/water, and space for fencing to ensure the generator is secure. Placing the generator in this location also retains access to the generator by way of a proposed driveway. This will allow for appropriate access for maintenance activities and provide a space for staff to park off the shoulder of Nathan Cirillo Road while performing their duties at the lift station. So our recommendation is that Municipal Council approve the conveyance of Parcel A portion of PID 607-27641 of the attached plan number 24417 to 4379045 Nova Scotia Limited in exchange for the conveyance of Parcel D of the same plan, portion of PID 607-27633 4379045 Nova Scotia Limited to the municipality to be added to PID 607-16875, and also known as the Nathan Cirillo Road right-of-way, and further that council authorize the mayor and clerk to execute the deeds.
Questions on this? Would someone, I know that we've just heard the motion, but we do need to have it recorded by one of our councillors. So, Councillor Brooks.
To Mayor McLean-Weil and members of council, I move that the Municipal Council approve the conveyance of Parcel A, portion of PID 607-27641 of Plan Number 24-417 as presented, to 4379045 Nova Scotia Limited in exchange for the conveyance of Parcel D of the same plan, portion of PID 607-27633 to the municipality to be added to the Nathan Cirillo Road right-of-way parcel, PID 607-16875, and further that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the deeds. I so move.
And a seconder for the motion, please. Seconded by Councillor Hubley. Further discussion? All those in favor signify by raising their hands. Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. We'll move to 11.5, Economic Development. Mr. Waters.
I can go to that one. Can you hear me now? Thank you, Your Worship and Council. This is really just a procedural motion. Council, we brought this forward to Council back a few months ago regarding the grant that we applied for with Municipal Affairs. They've asked us to come back and have specific language that they wanted. So there's a motion, a new motion there that identifies the language that Municipal Affairs is asking for. It simply says Municipal Council endorses an application for the 2025-2026 Municipal Innovative Program, MIP, for the Regional Economic Partnership Study Project. And I'm just asking Council to make that motion and approve it.
Okay, this is for something we've already had a good discussion on, so could someone propose the motion in the language that Municipal Affairs will accept, please? Councillor Moore.
To Mayor McLean-Weil and members of council, I move that Municipal Council endorse an application for the 2025-26 Municipal Innovation Program, MIP, for the Regional Economic Partnership Study Project.
And a seconder for the motion. Seconded by Councillor Oikel. Is there further discussion? All those in favor signify by raising their hands. Motion is carried unanimously.
Thank you.
We will move to mayors, deputy mayors, and council matters, and LC update.
Thank you. This will be a little bit of a long one because we haven't had an update for a while, but I want to start off by saying that all agendas and minutes are current on the LCLC website, and you can find those documents under the About tab. So all agendas and all approved board meeting minutes are now on that website. We've gotten questions about it in the past, and the interim GM reached out yesterday to confirm that all was there. So we're going to go back to July, where the LCLC held a strategic planning session at the Best Western. In attendance were board members from both Modal, Town of Bridgewater, the interim GM for the LCLC, and staff members in a leadership position, as well as some members from MJSB. The LCLC is well prepared to implement a new strategic plan, building on past plans, budgets, and policies. A well-followed strategic plan provides clarity, direction, and focus, helping the organization navigate complex governance and service delivery challenges. It also supports transparency, aligns with core values, and fosters a collaborative, equitable, and inclusive environment, which is what we want for the LCLC. The strategic planning session began with introductions and an overview of the session's purpose and importance, followed by a team discussion to establish core organizational values and conduct a SWOT analysis. We then worked collaboratively to adopt vision and mission statements and identify strategic pillars. The afternoon focused on breakout group work to define outcomes and draft strategic actions aligned with each pillar. The day concluded with next steps for the interim GM, who will take away the outcomes and come back with a report for the next stage and implementation of this plan. We had a board meeting on July 24th in person, and we at that time had discussed some IT upgrades. The interim GM reported the LCLC's current network infrastructure is undersized, causing severe performance issues during peak usage and requiring guest Wi-Fi to be disabled in order to maintain core operations. An IT assessment confirmed the need for a higher capacity firewall, and the approved 2025-26 capital budget includes $59,000 for these upgrades. A suitable firewall has been identified and is available at a reduced cost of $27,000, well below the budgeted amount. We approved that motion to go ahead with the IT upgrades and price out the firewall. At that meeting, the board also recommended that municipal councils engage the MJSB to initiate the process for the LCLC to become a shared service. We had an online meeting on August 26, and it was a brief meeting to review the future of the EV charging stations and consider in-house management versus outsourcing to a third-party provider. The motion that was brought forward and approved was to have the general manager enter into a lease and easement agreement with Nova Scotia Power for the installment of the EV charging station at the LCLC, and that was approved and carried forward. So now that'll be a third-party service as opposed to in-house EV chargers, and then they will absorb the cost and maintenance and not the LCLC. Last week, we held our September board meeting, and the following motions were brought forward and approved, and they included approval of the year-end financials for March 31st, 2025, acceptance of the August financials, a request to direct the MJSB, sorry, I'm going to start over. Request MJSB to direct the COO to issue invitations to identified individuals and firms for consulting services to complete the functions outlined in the statement of work, and also request MJSB to direct the COO to select an appropriate firm and enter into a contract effective immediately to provide temporary financial oversight services to the LCLC. Some other important updates provided to the committee at that time was that the interim GM is finalizing the terms of the agreement with Nova Scotia Power for the installation of those 2 fast charging stations. New tables for the Galleria have arrived. There's been a lack of space with increased users at the LCLC, needing tables and chairs to work at. The LCLC received a grant from Sport Nova Scotia for just over $14,000, and these funds were used to purchase 12 new skate aids, which have now arrived on site. They've allocated temporary storage for minor hockey to support their operational needs. The new Zamboni has been ordered with anticipated arrival in spring of 2026. The new firewall has been purchased with installation anticipated for mid-October. Request for quotes for a website redesign has been issued and should be back the end of September. Some other noteworthy items include advertising and new partnerships have been secured and packages updated for clarity. Opportunities being explored include monitors at guest services, vinyl and riser ads, tabletop ads, and naming rights discussions with potential investors. We are currently in the middle of the 55-plus seniors games, which is taking place the 21st to the 24th. There's an upcoming cheer competition, hockey tournaments, and another important fact that I wanted to bring forward is year-to-date users coming through the building. At this time in 2024, we had approximately 212,000 users coming through the facility, and this year we're at 257,000, an increase of almost 20% of people that are walking through the doors of the LCLC. So while I didn't comment on everything because my update was fairly long, I encourage you to view those minutes on the website. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them at this time.
Questions? No? Do you want to give your deputy mayor's report?
I'll keep that one short. Agenda briefings, all meetings as assigned, and yesterday participated in the mayor's, warden's, deputy mayor's meeting as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. During my report, during the last several weeks, there have been changes at the Municipal Joint Services Board, which have required my attention. John Feeney has been appointed interim Chief Operating Officer following the resignation of Leslie McFarland. Mr. Feeney's appointment is effective this Friday, September the 26th. This change in leadership has precipitated a series of other recommendations that will come to MJSB later this week related to the work the board is involved in with the Lunenburg County Lifestyle Center. And you'll be hearing more about that as we move through the fall and the subsequent meetings that we'll have. I delivered remarks on behalf of the municipality at an event hosted by the Bank of Montreal at the Best Western, and which was attended by clients of Bank of Montreal in this area. The CAO and I, along with the mayor and the CAO for the town of Lunenburg, met with the Honorable Becky Drouin over the proposed police review report. Ms. Drouin provided more details on the recommendations from the report. I conveyed our concerns around the timing of the budget process and our need to have clarity on the projected costs for our budget development. I asked for the appointment of the provincial representative on the Police Advisory Committee, and I also asked for clarification on the role of the Police Advisory Committee in offering input on the priorities for our local RCMP detachment and the reference to safety boards in the policing report. She offered training for our joint committee with the town of Lunenburg. As you know, we have agreed to form a joint committee, but it hasn't met yet. I'm not sure when that's going to happen, but we met together with her. The deputy mayor and I have been working on the structure and content of our team building training and strategic planning for later this fall. A consultant has been selected to lead the work, and we have finalized dates for these activities in late October and November. I know this has added more meeting time to your agenda, however, we feel this is important work in building our working relationships within council and in preparing for the budget process. I attended the regular meeting of the Hebbville Village Commission. There continued to be need for clarification of the role of the commission, jurisdiction and authority of the commissionaires and their bylaws. I have contacted Andrea Hislop at the Department of Municipal Affairs to help in clarifying some of their questions and the requirements for their training in diversity, equity, and inclusion. I represented the municipality at the opening of the Nova Scotia 55 Plus Games, which we know are underway, It was a fun evening, and there are more than 800 participants taking part in activities throughout the district and through the towns and in Liverpool as well. I was invited by John and Janet Meisner to join them and the board members of the Mahone Bay Islands Conservation Association for a boat tour of the Mahone Islands that have been protected through purchase or donation, and that's part of what the municipality has supported in the past. And they continue to work on securing more properties in Mahone Bay. And I have to say, if we had to pick a day, it was a perfectly magical day to go on Saturday out through the islands. Really, really beautiful. I'd never had an opportunity to do that before. And John was a very gracious host in explaining the long history, and I know they've reported to our council, but to actually go and see the islands was quite a treat. Councillor Oikel and I joined Braden Newell and Mayor Mitchell at the LCLC for a session called Let's Talk Government. This provided an opportunity for the public to ask questions and to discuss concerns. And the LCLC was an excellent location with equal numbers of residents from both the town and the municipality. And we did one earlier late in the spring, I think, and it was at the Bridgewater Mall, and I thought the LCLC was a better location. Councillor Smith and I met with residents from Sweetland, and we had that discussion earlier this morning. The mayors and deputy mayors met this week, and we continue our informal discussions around a number of topics, which included regional economic development, strong mayor powers, the policing review, and the Lunenburg County Accessibility Advisory Committee and the Anti-Racism and Discrimination Advisory Committee. And there is a lot of work ahead of us, and lots of, as we get back into the fall schedule of meetings and lots of community events, certainly over the next number of weeks as people come back from summer holidays. We have an in-camera meeting, or in-camera session that we will follow this meeting with, so I'd ask for Councillor Smith.
Are we permitted to ask questions?
Oh, yes, sorry.
I attended the police review session in Halifax with NSFM, and I sent notes to council coming out of that. And it was really disappointing that Minister Drouhin was booked for 2 hours, and then when she showed up with her team, she cut the meeting short to 1 hour. And during her presentation, she was like, oh, there's going to be lots of time for consultation. I'm meeting with councils all over the province. So I was really looking forward to the police review conversation we were going to have with Minister Drouhin. So I did ask the office about this, and I couldn't tell who, like, did Minister Drouhin ask for it to just be mayors and CAOs? Yeah, I think that's really unfortunate because it's such a huge issue across, the district, and it affects us differently given our areas. Yeah, just wanted to say that.
I wasn't at the meeting. It conflicted with something else for me. My understanding from the discussion was that this was a better conversation, but my overall assessment of where we're at with that is that this is years of work ahead. And whatever the Department of Justice chooses to actually act on initially and the timetable associated with it, it wasn't overly clear what the rollout will be, but it just appeared that this is a very long process of work, and probably for us the biggest implications are change in the budget process and the costing of police service for us. And I don't know, Tom, if you want to make comment on it, because you had a meeting as well. It seemed like they're trying to prepare us a bit for some adjustment in the costing, and it's not really very clear, but
So thank you, Mayor. So the CAOs were invited to a separate meeting with the RCMP and Department of Justice. And so the RCMP are currently engaged in a review of RCMP services in Lunenburg County. And they have a tool that they use to do an evidence-based review of the current level of service and the proper level of service and the number of officers that it would take to achieve that. So contrary to Minister Drouin's suggestion that you just budget for 130% of your need, they're actually doing a review to determine the proper need for the whole detachment in Lunenburg County. And the Department of Justice explained that they're moving away from the individual cost per officer to a formula-based approach, which would see municipalities that can pay more, and municipalities that can't afford it pay less. But it's not just based on uniform assessment, it's based upon policing needs per community and a number of factors. But they don't know what the formula was going to look like. So the service review will be done this fall, and that will come with a recommendation on the number of officers we should have, which may or may not cause an increase in the complement for the region. The formula will not be done by the time we have to pass our budget. So we will budget based on our best guess of what the likely cost will be for the RCMP. And the province is continuing to move forward, as the minister indicated, with the policing review. Mayor Myra from town of Lunenburg shared that in 2001, they decided to give up their town police force for the RCMP because 24 years ago, the province indicated that towns were going to start to get billed by the RCMP for RCMP services and complement the town police. So they decided back then to move to the RCMP. 24 years later, the same thing is being said as the part of the rationale for the municipal police forces to possibly get supplemented by the RCMP or just serviced by the RCMP. And the towns, particularly those towns with their own police forces, they're having discussions directly with the department and the minister on that. So as the mayor's indicated, this isn't something that's going to be quick or easy. But the minister keeps suggesting that it's not going to increase costs. But it sounds like everyone, the province doesn't want to pay more, and the municipalities don't want to pay more. But the cost is going to go up, and it's just unclear who they think is going to pay it, because their answer that your costs aren't going up and the province is going to pay less just makes no sense. So it's yet to be seen, but they did have a good presentation, but it certainly lacked substance, and it wasn't clear on, what priorities are going to move forward first. But there was some learnings that they have. The 11 RCMP districts in Nova Scotia don't share information, which was surprising to learn. They have to go through a whole process to share relevant information about things. So that's one of the focuses, is better communication. So some of those made a lot of sense. And then they're changing the police boards to some form of community safety board, which appears to be going to pull in the senior safety officer, but also they're talking about the use of special constables. So it's as wide as you can imagine. And then trying to get that to something that is workable, it's a big question mark.
And, I mean, we have, on our police advisory board, there's a provincial appointee who hasn't been reappointed. And, we reminded the minister that we'd like to have a full complement of community members. And, these are, if they can't get that done, one wonders about the length of time this may actually take to implement any aspect of it. So I think there's going to be plenty of discussion and around this in the months and years to come, because I don't think that there's a really clear plan for the implementation. I know that doesn't help much for your, but just to say that nothing's going to happen fast.
I just have a second.
Sure.
In regarding this subject, I heard that there was possible rumors of looking at the province, looking at a province-wide department similar to the Ontario Provincial Police, rather than having the RCMP. Was there any of that discussion at those meetings?
I don't think that's the option. That was one of the recommendations, one of the options outlined in the review, but that's not the direction that the province is moving in. Okay.
My other question is about the discussion about strong mayor powers. I've noticed that a lot of councils around the province have been discussing it openly at their councils, and some have taken positions on it. And definitely, it looks like the province, not in this sitting, it's not going to happen now, but it seems like Premier Houston is definitely leaving the door open. But a lot of our residents don't understand what this is about. They're just like, strong, good, but don't understand how it would change municipal councils and governance. And I hope that we can have that open conversation here at some point before it hits us in the face, and legislation is on the table, because that could happen, in the spring. But anyway, I just raised that because, you mentioned that you're talking to Mayor Mitchell about it.
Well, it was raised, we talked about it with all the mayors at the meeting yesterday. There was a survey sent out by Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities around strong mayor powers, and whether it was sent, I answered on behalf of myself, my own opinion on this. And I think NSFM has been, I'm not sure, maybe Deputy Mayor Vino could speak to this, the work that's been done. Maybe you want to speak to that.
So there was really good feedback, a lot of responses in addition to your simple check here or check here. And the plan is to bring the responses to the fall conference session, and I'll make sure that anybody who doesn't attend that would like that information to report back. But I'm confident in saying the province is clear on what they want. And very similar to what we had thought, that leave as is. Don't change things.
You mean the municipalities are clear on what they want to the province?
Yes, yes.
I'm sure we'll talk about it in November, but we'll see how it goes. I think it's the legislation that I think that the provincial government was following was what's been implemented in Ontario. And I mean, the implications are mostly for clearly a strong mayor, for the mayor to have powers beyond what currently exist. Where, as mayor, I have one vote, but my powers as serving as mayor could override much of that. Much of it has to do with the hiring and firing of the CAO. And, my personal opinion on this is I have no desire or belief that I should have more power than any of those who sit at this table. Having one vote is, I think, part of the democratic process. My role is to help in the leadership of the group, and that's the role that I think I should play. Decision around the staffing, our relationship is with one staff person, and that's the CAO. And clearly, that should be a council decision and not the mayor's position to hire and fire and have that level of power. I just think all of it undermines the democratic process that I think we all believed when we ran for office that we're part of a democratic process. And embedding that power in one person is, undermines that in a very serious way.
Thank you.
So with that, we will move to our in-camera session. If I could have a motion to move in camera. Moved by Councillor Oikel, seconded by Councillor Hubley. We'll move in camera.